Okay, we've got to talk about the Nazca mummies. So get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I'll talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. Yeah, I want to talk about a couple of different things today. One is something that I've talked about several times before, but this side-by-side comparison really brings it home. And thank you, Tridactyls, for doing this. Or excuse me, Nazca Mummies. The Twitter channel Nazca Mummies for doing this. Uh, most of you are probably familiar with the Siberian being that is, pretty much a dead ringer for the Nazca mummies when you do various comparisons on them, their skull shape, even like the three holes on the side of their head and everything. It's really amazing how closely they resemble each other. I mean, like I say, pretty much a dead ringer. This being right here, who is recently deceased at the time of this video, it doesn't look like it's been dead that long, a few days, I don't know. Yeah, you experts, you biologists or autopsy experts, tell me in the comments below how old this thing might be. And it might be pregnant because it's got this lump in its abdomen. Yeah, I don't know what could have killed it. I guess pretty much anything. It's not a very large being, or why it was, running around alone and vulnerable. The tragic death aside, the side-by-side comparison is just really amazing. You can see how closely, this X-ray of one of the Nazca mummies overlaid against the Siberian being, how closely they line up. And again, I've gone over the abdomens and the eggs before, and how the Nazca mummies that were egg laying or that were gestating with eggs, however you say that, had this little belly. And seems to be kind of what we're looking at with this being in Siberia. So I think it's very possibly a pregnant or gestating being at the time it died. But yeah, this side-by-side comparison, this is obviously an overlay of the X-ray of one of the beings, one of the Nazca mummies, showing how it lines up just perfectly with the Siberian being. I think that's just incredible. I think that these guys are very likely still running around today. I've talked multiple times about the rumors in South America that, yeah, they see these things come and go from caves in the mountains. They seem to still be here. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? Now, meanwhile, getting back to the disinformation that's been running around, which is so frustrating, I'd love to talk about the cool stuff, and we will. But Gonzalo Chavez, fighting the good fight, says, and everybody should go follow Gonzalo. He's a great, he has a great Twitter channel or profile. He says, Joseph, we made Wawita DICOM public so people could see what a cut off finger looks like in real life. But I've noticed skeptics don't actually look for evidence unbiased. That's why I'm not worried about your guys' claims. Yeah, well, they are obviously very biased, and you can see here what an actual amputated digit looks like. Because Wawita has an amputated digit, which is something we're going to talk about in a minute because it's fascinating. But yeah, so she got the 3 fingers now, and Wawita was an infant when she died, tragically. And she should have, or was born with, what looks like 4 fingers, but one of them was amputated to give her this tridactyl appearance. However, it did not make her fingers any longer, seemingly. I'm not sure if she has the same number of phalanges that the other Nazca mummies have. They have these very long fingers with an extra phalange, and they don't have any palms in the way that we do. But Wawita, here's Wawita, again, an infant when she died. And she is an anomalous being. Her head, her brain is larger than a human infant's of the same age. So she seems to have an enlarged brain like Maria and the other human-sized Nazca beings. Her physiology is different. She seems genuinely anomalous. And yet, she has that amputated digit to make her look like a tridactyl. Also, presence of cranial sutures. So was she going through before she died some sort of skull binding? Is that what that means? I'm not sure. But if you know more about skull binding and cranial sutures, let me know if you think that's what that refers to. Um, yeah, cranial volume about 20% larger than that of a human of the same age. That's about what we find in Maria as well. Approximate age of specimen, 6 or 8 months. Three-fingered hands and feet, but probably mutilated. And I think we can see that it's not just probably, but it's definite. Proven and probably ancient mutilations, religious practices, funeral rites, etc. Now, we need to know. I think it would be very important to know if this was done in life or death, and I haven't seen any definitive word on that. But again, if you have, let me know. Because what it implies, well, this implies several things. The mutilation of Wawita implies several things. It means that if she was considered part of the gang, part of the Nazca mummy beings, then whatever process created them was not perfect. That they didn't all come out the same. That is, the three-fingered, three-toed, possibly their head shape, if she had skull binding, that they didn't all come out the same, which is really interesting. I had imagined that the beings that created them were experts in genetics, and they must have been, but maybe not foolproof, not 100%. And that, I think, is really significant. We're not talking about omnipotent, godlike beings. We are talking about beings with a fantastic level of technology, obviously, but capable of making errors and creating beings that are not according to the template that they had designed, this tridactyl template with, a certain shape of head. I think that's fascinating. So, yeah, there's some bugs in their system. Really interesting. Also, very, very interesting that if she was mutilated in life or if she had experienced skull binding in life, to give her that more distinctive elongated head instead of this more bulbous head, then that means there's some sort of conformity pressure within the Nazca being culture, that they all needed to adhere to a certain shape, a certain appearance, even if it meant mutilating their fingers, reducing their, ability to manipulate or whatever. It was that important that they undergo this process to make them appear like the conventional, to use a word, conventional Nazca mummy being, like Maria, like Montserrat, like the others, Montresita, etc. Oh, why would they do that? I think that's an amazing question and maybe a very important question that speaks to their culture, to their values. Maybe they wanted to, reflect what their creators wanted them to be. Something like that, maybe something different. For some reason, that was very important to them. Also, I think it lends a lot of credence to the idea that skull binding practices around the world, not just in South America, but around the world where people were seemingly encountering these beings, isn't coming from the humans. This seems to be a cultural practice of the beings to have the certain, shape and appearance and, physiology, whatever. And I think that it's very likely that was passed on to the humans who may have venerated them or worshiped them or looked up to them in some way. Dick Algier did an amazing remote viewing. I believe it was on Teotihuacan, where he was viewing this place in the ancient past where there were elongated skull beings that were the rulers of that people, and they had fantastic abilities. And they were, worshipped and held in awe by the regular humans of the area. Could it be the same with, the Nazca beings or other anomalous beings around the world that may have, been tridactyl or had elongated heads? I think that's likely. I would love to know definitively if that was the case or not. And I hope we can get over this, are they real or not BS, then focus on these issues that I find really fascinating and important, especially if some of these guys are still running around today, which I think they probably are. So it makes it relevant to today. But yeah, let me know what you think. Why Wawita might have been mutilated to have this appearance. What does that mean? What does that signify? And if there is a conformity pressure within the Nazca mummy people or beings, is that likely to transfer over to humans who may have looked up to them, held them in some esteem, and wanting to be like them? Going through skull binding practices. I don't know why they didn't mutilate their hands, but I'm glad they didn't, the humans. But they did mutilate their heads. They did go through these practices to have these elongated heads. And I think that's very interesting, and it speaks to something I think that's important to understand about the ancient peoples if we could figure out what that was and their interactions with these non-humans, who again might very well still be around today, at least some of them. So and also the creators of these beings, they're interested in hybrids. They're putting implants in these beings, similar to what's still going on today with the abduction phenomenon. So they're creators of these beings definitely still seem to be running around, or at least, operating with the same modus operandi. MO, I can say it. All of these questions, I think, are still very relevant and important to figure out, to understand who exactly we're dealing with, who is interacting with us, and why. I'd love to know, guys. I'd love your insights on all of this in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, links below. Love to see you guys there. If you want to support the channel, grab a t-shirt or a coffee mug or a hoodie or something in the merch store. That'd be awesome. You could also become a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.